There are massive changes happening all across the federal government, but one agency, which happens to be America's face for the rest of the world, they've announced that they're eliminating over 100 offices, 2,000 jobs. This happens to be the State Department, but other federal agencies could be following suit. How will it impact you? Let's get into it. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is promising to streamline the department, cut redundant functions, and align with President Trump's priorities. But with 15% of the staff facing layoffs, 132 offices being cut, and a draft of a new executive order that's proposing loyalty tests for diplomats, the stakes are high. The mission is to focus their resources on policy priorities and eliminate redundant functions. Right now, this agency has about 13,000 federal employees, but on July 1st, some of their workers are going to receive a reduction in force notice. That is a layoff notice. That'll give them between 60 and 90 days, probably 60 days, to get out of there. The offices that aren't required by law, that do not align with Trump's priorities and have overlapping roles or, quote, represent radical causes are gone. It's surprising just how many offices the State Department has. It's not crazy like the Department of Defense or the VA because they have thousands of offices. But the State Department, they have hundreds, and they have a lot of them outside of the country. These are usually embassies or consulates, but the offices that are facing the cuts here, this includes the Office of Global Women's Issues, which promotes gender equality worldwide, the Energy Resources Bureau, which shapes U.S. energy diplomacy, the Office of Global Partnerships, which works with American businesses abroad. This is going to hit the civil service employee, the federal employee, as well as the contractor. They're both going to be given 60 days to get out of there. Now, the State Department is looking at incentives, just like the rest of the agencies when the early retirement with the VSIP. The labor union said reorganization by leaks and confusion isn't a strategy. It's a recipe for failure. They warned of a demoralized workforce and weakened U.S. diplomacy. That's the human side of this. You got thousands of workers who've studied and wanted to work in diplomacy. Now they're wondering if they have a job after July 1st. Now, aside from this, the real exciting piece of this news is the draft executive order, because there's a lot of nuggets of information inside of this order. It's going to change things from the test that is currently administered to Foreign Service officers. It's going to propose a new framework. It's going to look like this: charisma, regional knowledge, diplomatic appearance, and alignment with the president's foreign policy vision. Every finalist interview would have a White House representative there to determine how loyal that individual was to the president. So why do people have a strong reaction to this? What's wrong with being loyal to the president? Well, nothing's wrong with it, but you have to understand that people point towards the federal employee oath of office. This is an oath that's given to pretty much every federal employee, and it says they swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The idea behind this is the president is a temporarily elected official, and the Constitution is permanent and timeless. This is done to ensure that the federal workforce remains nonpartisan. The change of the test is a shift from what was done previously. And full disclosure, President Biden, his administration changed the test as well to consider the candidates' narratives and backgrounds, not just their test scores. They also made the Foreign Service Officer Assessment fully online to save travel costs. Now, before we go any further, this is a leaked document. This is not a finished document, and Secretary Rubio is saying that this is fake news, probably because it's not finished yet. So this is not official. But some of the other changes in here, they would move the Foreign Service officers from global rotations to staying in that region. So instead of every 3 years changing continents, an individual would stay for 9 years in that region so that they could develop better proficiency. Now, this on the surface, it looks like a pretty good idea, because if you wanted to stay on a continent or you wanted to stay in a region, then instead of just being there 3 years and then moving, you could stay there for 9 years. So that could grant perhaps further stability. Then we have more cuts. The draft order targets non-essential embassies and consulates in sub-Saharan Africa, a region where the U.S. competes with China and Russia for influence. It also eliminates the Office of Foreign Assistance and the Office of Global Criminal Justice. Then there's the AI push. The order wants more AI. AI to draft documents, develop policy, and plan operations on secure networks. The State Department has already been using AI. They have the State Chat, which is an AI chatbot. Then they have AI State, which is a hub. This is an idea that is currently being adopted by a lot of federal agencies to include SSA. And the question is, when we're losing thousands of federal workers that were actually doing a task, they had a purpose in the agency, they had duties and responsibilities, so you're losing them. The result of that is the existing or the surviving employees, they now have additional tasks put on their desk. Well, AI can provide some relief so people don't burn out, so people don't churn out as fast. AI could potentially replace some workers. Now, the State Department is saying that they're not replacing humans, they're supplementing. But that's just the initial stage, right? What's going to happen next year as AI becomes more developed, more advanced? We could see it take on a lot more roles and responsibilities within agencies. Senator Brian Schatz said that Rubio's overseeing the continuing weakening of the department, defying law and harming U.S. interest. He demanded Rubio explains how these cuts won't gut diplomacy. In the middle of all these job cuts, not just in the State Department, but across the federal government, hundreds of thousands of people getting cut by the reduction in forces, we have one office that's doing quite well. You know what that office is? That is the office that supports the House of Representatives, members of Congress. So this office has 10,000 or a little bit over 10,000 workers. They are in fact growing. They're not seeing any cuts, any reductions. They're trying to actually grow. So the interesting thing about this is it's a combination of federal employees and non-federal employees. So for federal employees, we're looking at the clerk of the House, sergeant at arms, and the chief administrative officer. For non-federal employees, we're looking at personal office staff, committee staff, and interns. There's a resume bank that you can take your resume, you can upload it into that bank. There's 14 distinct jobs that you could potentially do in this office. Now, currently, there's about 30,000 resumes in that resume bank. And during the last election cycle, they pulled out resumes and hired hundreds of new people. The salary range here is all over the place, from $40,000 a year, which isn't much, to $200,000 a year. Now, the reason why a lot of people, they don't even think or apply to these type of jobs is because they're not on usajobs.gov. You would have to go to house.gov. And if you go on there, you can upload your resume. But another thing that you can do is you can sign up to the bulletin. The bulletin will let you know of new job positions, new vacancies, so you can apply. So this is a sliver, a tiny sliver of good news of an office that's still hiring. Now, last year, if you watched these videos, you would see I had a ton of videos about agencies hiring. Agency hiring 5,000, 10,000. That was the theme of 2024. And this year, it seems the theme is more about cuts, agency shrinking. It's a lot of bad news. It's back-to-back bad news. And it's really, it's not even just about agency cuts. It's about benefit cuts. It's about plans in Congress about shrinking and continuing to take a lot of the benefits and stability from the federal workforce. So a good chunk of this news is kind of sad. It's kind of depressing. It kind of makes people a little fearful. So I really doubt that I have very many people that were following me from 2024 continue on to 2025. A lot of people accepted the deferred resignation program. They're not even thinking about federal work. So if you are still sticking with me throughout the years, I appreciate you. As you probably know, we're under a hiring freeze extension. So the entire hiring freeze is going to be at least 175 days. This is probably to allow the reduction in force to play out, to see how deep the cuts get and where the agencies need to focus on when it comes to their hiring effort. I still believe towards the end of the year they will be hiring. But if you want to know more about the hiring freeze extension, then check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.